In the futuristic city of Neo-Elysium, where towering chrome skyscrapers touched the clouds and AI ran nearly everything, lived a reclusive billionaire woman named Alira Voss. Once the most talked about mind in quantum innovation, she had vanished from public life without a word. For 17 years she hadn't spoken a single sentence, not a word to her staff, media, or even herself. In the year 2197, Neo-Elysium shimmered like a living organism. The city breathed in light and exhaled data, its skyline pierced by needle-like towers and orbital bridges that connected the old Earth with its satellite colonies. Artificial intelligence ran everything from trash collection to parental care. Humanity had conquered disease, climate collapse, and even time, at least, to a degree. And amid all this nigh-utopian progress, there was a woman who refused to speak. Her name was Alira Voss. Alira had once been the crown jewel of the scientific elite. At the age of 19, she cracked the foundation of quantum communication using neural entanglement. By 25, she had amassed a tech empire so vast that it made entire governments cautious of upsetting her. She was brilliant, cold, methodical, and then she vanished. She didn't disappear in the literal sense. Her tower still stood in the center of Neo-Elysium, cloaked in shimmering electromagnetic shields. Her company, Voss Dynamics, still operated, flawlessly, managed by AI proxies and decisions pre-coded years in advance. Her face still graced textbooks, digital galleries, and lecture archives. But she had cut off every human interaction. No one had seen her in public. No interview, voice recordings, not a single sentence. For 17 years, Alira had lived in near-complete isolation. The public speculated endlessly. Some said she had suffered a catastrophic mental collapse. Others believed she had uploaded her consciousness into the cloud and left behind only a biological husk. Conspiracy forums believed she had discovered something too powerful, something that had driven her into permanent silence. None of them were completely right, but none of them were entirely wrong either. Inside her skybound citadel, Alira moved like a ghost. Her eyes still burned with thought, but her lips never moved. Her days were a routine of solitude, reading encrypted scrolls on holographic displays, walking along the gravity-defying glass gardens, and watching the stars from her observatory dome. Her AI caretakers never spoke to her, never asked questions. They knew better. Her silence wasn't a symptom, it was a command. On occasion, Alira would receive private calls from global leaders, urgent requests, warnings, threats masked as concern. She would stare into the screen and simply blink once. That meant no. Twice, maybe. 3 blinks was the closest she came to a yes. It was said that the president of the Eurasian bloc once begged her for her opinion on a lunar AI breakdown, only to be met with a cold, glassy stare and the slow closing of a connection. Her silence became legend. Children were taught that she was a cautionary tale of genius without grounding. Others said she was a living deity, a being so advanced she had transcended the need for speech. Some still waited for the day she would speak again, as if her voice might bring with it revelation or destruction. But Alira wasn't waiting. She was hiding. Inside her mind, behind walls of quantum-encrypted memories, she guarded something ancient, not old in human terms, but ancient in the fabric of reality. It pulsed in her thoughts like a quiet whisperer code, not written by human hands. She had sealed it away the day she understood its potential, and with it, she had silenced herself. Not because she couldn't talk, but because she dared not speak. Each word she withheld was a lock. Each year of silence, a firewall. No one could break the encryption. No one could reach her. No one dared until the young doctor arrived. Dr. Cale Riven stood at the edge of the landing bay, watching the glistening doors of the Voss Citadel slide open like the iris of an unblinking eye. He was 32, brilliant beyond his years, and already hailed as a revolutionary in neurosynthetic integration. His work in healing brain trauma patients using biodigital synapses had caught the attention of global leaders, and now, inexplicably, of Alira Voss. It had started with a message from an untraceable frequency. No name, no voice, just coordinates. A timestamp and a signature shaped like a spiral fractal. Cale had known what it meant. Only one person ever used the spiral. Only one mind had crafted code elegant enough to mimic fractal self-replication in neural tissue. Alira Voss had summoned him. He'd expected security scans, digital interrogations, perhaps even biometric siphoning. Instead, he was simply allowed in, alone, as if his presence had been anticipated for years. The interior of the Voss Citadel was a symphony of stillness. Holograms shifted gently in the corners of his vision, floating memories. locked archives, or perhaps just echoes of thoughts left behind. Alira sat in a transparent recliner near a spiraling indoor garden that defied gravity, its leaves gliding upward like smoke. She was older than the last known image of her, but not by much. Her eyes were sharper, her posture regal. She acknowledged him with a slow blink, but said nothing. Kale bowed slightly. Ms. Voss, I received your invitation. She didn't nod or smile. She simply raised her left hand and pressed her fingers gently to her temple. A small, silver disc emerged from her skin, no larger than a coin. Kale took a step closer, instinctively raising his scanner. It pulsed red. Neural implant, he murmured. But this isn't standard tech. This is, he hesitated. It's growing. The disc glowed with faint bioluminescence. Unlike modern implants, which were designed to sit passively inside the cortex, this one had integrated itself deeply organically. It had threads that wrapped around synapses like living roots. It wasn't just reading her thoughts, it was becoming part of her. I've never seen anything like this, Kale said, more to himself than to her. What is it doing to you? Still silent, Alira stood and gestured for him to follow. She led him down a narrow hallway lined with mirrored panels. As they passed, the panels flickered brief moments of her past. Alira in a lab, Alira screaming. At a council, Alira kneeling before something massive and glowing in the dark. Kale stopped walking. What was that? He asked, breath catching. She didn't answer. Instead, she entered a small chamber and lay down on a circular platform. A diagnostic chair unfolded beside her. It was clear now she was asking for his help, not to speak for her, but to see. Kale activated his tools. His hologloves spun out data threads as he interfaced with the implant. At first, everything appeared normal: brainwave mapping, standard cortical functions, even her DNA markers. But then something shifted. The implant responded to him, not like a machine, but like a presence. A whisper of code flowed through his visor, symbols he had never seen, characters that looked almost alien, and in that moment he understood. This wasn't a disease, this wasn't trauma. Alira Voss was not mute because she couldn't speak. She was guarding something encoded into her mind, something that had changed her biology, her thoughts, even her silence. Kale leaned back, stunned. You've been holding this inside you, he whispered. Alira's eyes met his. Slowly, she reached out, touching the scanner. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from weakness, but from the weight of choice. Kale realized then that her silence wasn't a symptom. It was a seal, and he had just found the key. Kale stood frozen, the glow from the implant reflecting in his pupils. The data stream spilling from Alira's cortex wasn't just code, it was alive. It moved like liquid intelligence, bending logic, rewriting rules as it flowed. His neural scanner struggled to keep up. Entire sequences rewrote themselves as he watched, as if aware they were being observed. He blinked and looked at Alira. This is not human, not even close. She didn't flinch. Her expression was distant, like someone watching the stars move out of rhythm. Her silence, for the first time, felt more like restraint than inability. Kale had seen corrupted minds, damaged ones, even artificially enhanced ones, but this was an integration. He connected his neural lens directly to the scanner and initiated a memory trace, an invasive process. But the only way to understand what was embedded in her mind. Instantly, he was pulled into her consciousness. It wasn't what he expected. He stood inside a vast digital void. Not empty, but structured, like walking through a city built from thought and memory. Every building was a moment. Alira at a podium, Alira in deep space, Alira decoding an ancient satellite transmission in her youth. But one structure stood out among them, a tower pulsing with energy, surrounded by shifting glyphs that made Kale's head ache or he approached it. The closer he got, the harder it was to breathe. And then, he saw the memory. Lira younger, floating inside a derelict alien spacecraft hidden beneath the surface of Jupiter's smallest moon, Amalthea. The footage was fragmented but terrifyingly clear. Symbols across the walls, organic technology that moved when touched, and in the center an obelisk humming with quantum frequency. She had reached toward it. Her fingertips brushed its surface. Light erupted, and then darkness. Another memory. A council meeting in a hidden facility. Alira screaming at scientists and generals. We cannot bring this back. It's not just knowledge, it's language. It grows in thought. It speaks in patterns. It infects with understanding. No one listened. So she did the unthinkable. She coded the language, the frequency, the memory, the very pattern of the alien technology into her own brain. Encrypted, sealed, locked away. She became the vault. Kale reeled out of the neural trace, gasping for air. The connection had been short, but it felt like he'd aged. Alira stared at him, her hand gripping the edge of the diagnostic table, her knuckles pale. You buried alien knowledge inside your mind, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Why? For the first time, Alira moved her lips to speak, but to mouth one word. Containment. Kale's heart pounded. It's dangerous. She nodded. It can spread. She hesitated, then slowly raised her hand and drew a spiral in the air. The same spiral she'd sent to summon him. That's when it clicked. The spiral wasn't just a signature. It was the symbol for recursive thought, a loop that fed on itself, growing with every cycle. The alien language wasn't just information. It was a living algorithm, and Alira, she had been living with it in her mind for 17 years. Kale backed away, stunned. Why call me? She reached for the scanner again, tapping its interface. A prompt blinked across the screen. Stability decreasing. Integration irreversible. Transfer required. His breath caught. You want to give it to me? She shook her head, then she placed a trembling hand over her heart. No, she mouthed. I want you to help destroy it. For the first time since his arrival, Kale felt cold. He wasn't just here to help her. He was being asked to unravel a secret that had the potential to rewrite reality itself, starting with one woman's memories made of alien code. Kale stared at the prompt blinking on the scanner. Transfer required, its meaning heavy. With impossible decisions, Alira stood still, her hand gently pressed to her chest, eyes locked with his. There was no panic in her gaze, no desperation, just the calm intensity of someone who had carried a deadly secret for nearly 2 decades, and was now ready to pass the burden or bury it forever. But Kale wasn't ready. He took a step back, his mind racing. Destroying the implant might erase the alien code. But what if it triggered a failsafe? What if the act of deletion activated the very thing Alira had tried to suppress? He opened his mouth to ask, but before he could speak, Alira raised her hand, fingers trembling. She touched the scanner again. A new sequence appeared, a data stream, compressed and encoded, pulsing with light. Kale narrowed his eyes, watching the pattern evolve. Suddenly, the lights in the chamber flickered. A deep hum vibrated through the floor. No, Kale muttered. That wasn't me. What did I just? He checked the system logs. Something had been activated. An ancient signal buried inside the code had just pinged out into the network. A beacon. Alira's face drained of color. She backed away, shaking her head violently. You didn't mean to send it, Kale realized. It was nested, hidden inside the sequence. She clenched her fists and mouthed the words. They're listening, and that's when it happened. The chamber's walls shimmered. Hidden projectors activated, forming a massive 3D galaxy map with a flashing red pulse aimed at Earth. Not from a distant star, but from within their own solar system. Kale's gut twisted. Something had been waiting, watching for her signal. Alira stepped forward now, urgent. She grabbed his hand and guided him down a narrow corridor. The Citadel had shifted, doors previously locked now opened, revealing tech far more advanced than anything Kale had ever seen. At the heart of the tower, a spiraling chamber unfolded, its walls etched with alien script. In the center stood a monolithic console, surrounded by a pool of liquid light. Eli placed her hand on the surface, and the pool lifted into the air, forming a shimmering interface. Kale's jaw dropped. This isn't Earth tech. You built this from what you found. She nodded once, then reached toward a small device embedded in the console. She pulled it free, a crystalline core, humming softly. Kale recognized the energy signature instantly. Quantum-tethered resonance, a key, he whispered. This is the key to the code in your mind. She looked at him with a pleading urgency. The alien signal had been sent. There was no more time. If they didn't act fast, the response might be catastrophic. I need to interface with the implant again, Kale said, steeling himself. But this time, not just to observe, to interact. Alira nodded and lay back onto the platform once more. Kale activated his neural link, this time using the crystalline core as a conduit. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. Kale's mind plunged into a storm of color, symbols, emotion, and sound. The alien code screamed like a sentient wave, trying to overwrite his thoughts. But amidst the chaos, he found her voice. Alira was speaking not with words, but with pure thought. I couldn't trust anyone. The gate isn't just a metaphor, it's real, and it's here inside me. They are coming, Kale. You opened the lock, but only I can show you how to close it. Outside, alarms blared. The Citadel's defense systems were activating. Something had entered Earth's orbit, silent, dark, and moving fast. Kale opened his eyes, gasping. Then show me. Alira reached out and whispered her first audible words in 17 years. Follow my memory, and don't stop no matter what you see. Kale barely had time to register the weight of Alira's words before the citadel shook violently. A tremor rolled through the structure, not from within, but from the sky. The defense matrix lit up with warning signals. Something had broken through Earth's orbital shield without triggering a single alert. Something that didn't exist on any official maps or surveillance channels. It was stealthy, ancient, and now descending directly above them. Alira sat up slowly, her expression calm but focused. She walked toward the center of the chamber, where a small platform began to rise from the floor. It looked almost like a chair, but not for comfort, for containment. Kale followed her with tense steps. What is that? She looked at him, her voice trembling with the weight of being used after so long. It's the bridge. Between minds. Between worlds. He approached carefully, watching the way the device hummed to her presence, recognizing her like a long-lost companion. This was more than a piece of alien tech. It was part of the gate she had spoken about, built to be opened by a mind strong enough to hold the code. Hers. She sat on the bridge seat and motioned for him to step into the second unit beside her. The connection has to be mutual, she said. You're the only one who's seen the code without losing yourself. That makes you compatible. Kale hesitated, staring up at the holographic map above them. Whatever was approaching, it would reach Earth's surface within minutes. They were out of time. He took his place in the second seat, and the bridge activated. Golden threads of light leaped between the two chairs, wrapping around their temples like a digital web. Kale felt his mind tugged outward, pulled into a neural space where thoughts weren't spoken but shared. Suddenly, he stood beside Alira in a recreated memory. The alien chamber on Amalthea. The obelisk glowed before them, radiating knowledge too immense for a single mind. But now, it was fractured, breaking apart in slow motion. Alira turned to him. We have one chance. If we fragment the code and tether each piece to opposing quantum keys, it will self-neutralize, but we have to split it together. If one of us fails, we both get overwritten. Kale finished. She nodded. They reached forward at the same time, touching the glowing core of the obelisk. Kale felt the alien intelligence surge into him again, but this time, he wasn't alone. Alira's presence was beside him, her mind layered with shields he could now reinforce. Together, they moved through the storm of data, identifying clusters, shattering them, tethering them to dead-end timelines using the crystalline keys. Kale's fingers trembled in the neural space. It's resisting, it doesn't want to die. Alira's voice echoed beside him. It's not meant to. It was designed to evolve forever, but we've made it see its own limitations. That's its weakness. Piece by piece, they dismantled it, until only one fragment remained, the original gateway string, the very line of code that had drawn the alien presence to Alira in the first place. Kale looked to her. You'll lose the memory, all of it. She smiled softly. Good. Carried it long enough. Together they sealed the final fragment. The bridge pulsed once, then went dark. Back in the real world, alarms ceased. The sky quieted. Whatever had been descending, it vanished, pulled back or dissolved. No one would ever know. Kale opened his eyes, dizzy, breathless. Alira slumped forward in her seat, unconscious but alive. Her neural readings were stable. The gate had closed. Kale looked at her, this one silent woman who had held the fate of humanity inside her mind. He reached over and took her hand gently. You saved us, he whispered. And now, the stars owe you silence.